Beloved Avatar, Meher Baba ki Jai. Jai Baba, everybody. Thank you for coming and bringing your light and love with you. My name is Mehnaz and welcome to Meher Baba's Prem Ashram meeting special. This is the first of the three-part series called Voices of Truth, which is about a presentation interviewing the people who were in touch with these amazing souls who were in Baba's Parmashram and interviewing with those close ones to them. So we are very excited about this to have you all here with us. And just want to give you a brief history for those who may not know about our group. We are called MeherSepas. And how we started was we started at the beginning of the pandemic. We got together, but our group takes its root. We are a Persian group. It takes its root from Iran. Our meetings, Baba meetings, actually started in house of Esfandiar Vesali, who was in Baba's Prem Ashram. And we found our way back together through the virtual world. So here we are, and we are so happy you could all join us. So today we are very honored and privileged to have Irwin joining us. And Irwin is going to talk about a journey he took back in the 70s. He went to Iran, met up with Farhad Shafa, who is also here today. And for the very first time, after 50 years, they're get together here in front of us. They're going to talk about that journey, that trip, and how it was to meet up with these special, amazing souls. They met up with the Esfandiar Vesali, Khosrow and Khodayar Namiranian, Abdullah Pakravan. They interviewed, and Irwin, he took films of them. And today, actually, we have a very special footage that Irwin shared that's never been seen before. So this is the very first time that he interviewed Khodayar Namiranian, and in his own words, he's going to talk about his experience and his time being in Baba's Prem Ashram.
The one without a second who clothed himself in this beautiful form we call Meher Baba, animated our dear Irwin and his brother Edward to go around and make videos of people who had spent time with Meher Baba. And they did this anywhere they could find people who had been with Baba. And after about 40 or 50 years, many of those videos are now available. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew this and could avail themselves of it. And we can certainly send the links to the YouTube channel later on. But with the same brush stroke that Baba painted this scenario of Irwin going around, he also animated Farhad Shafa to go back to Iran, and on his way to purchase good equipment to do the same thing, to basically document as much as possible the life stories of those who had been with Baba, especially those who had been at the Prem Ashram in Iran. And so the two figures here did not know about each other's mission in life, yet they were part of the same stroke coming out of the one without the second. And somehow they connected and they traveled together, and we had a wonderful travel companion, Anne Breen. And so Irwin is going to share with us his remembrances of half a century ago when he came to Iran and we traveled to see all these wonderful people and talk with them. So Irwin, the stage is yours.
Actually, Irvin has lost touch a little bit with some complication with the internet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play the video of Khodayar Namiranian being interviewed by Irvin. And I just want to say about the video briefly that is taken in the house of Esfandiar Vesali, which was in northern Tehran, called Kashanak. And that's where we always met, had Baba meetings there. So they're on the veranda. And while Khodayar is speaking, Esfandiar is sitting to his one side, and Shahryar Mehrabanpur, who also worked in Baba's Prem Ashram, is sitting on the other side. So we're gonna start the video, and hopefully Irvin will be has joined us by then. Let's start the video. Jai Baba.
Khodayar Namiranian, Irani. I was in 1926 in MEHER Ashram, which was called Meherabad. And there were two more schools. One was the Babajan High School, and another was MEHER Ashram. I was studying there about 1 year and 8 months. And these my two friends also were there. One is Mr. Shahryar Mehrabanpur, that at that time he was a worker in that school for us. And in my right hand, this man was one of the students like me in MEHER Ashram. His name is Mr. Esfandiar Vesali. He was a very good Baba lover, which always we saw him weeping for Baba with 3 other boys. Their name was one of them Said Ali, and the other one Ali Akbar, and the other was Abdullah Pakravan, which was called the last Chota Baba. And now we are in Iran. And we are speaking to everybody of our past in Meherabad and studying in school, and those things that Baba has taught us. Of course, at that days, Baba was in silence, and we had another teachers that they were studying us, and they were giving us 1 o'clock at each day about spiritual things.
Did you see the people weeping, the boys weeping before?
Yes, I was every day seeing them weeping very hardly for Baba, because they always liked to see Baba, and that in any time that they wouldn't see Baba, they would weep too much. And this is our life.
That's your life now.
That we don't drink any wine or smoke cigarette, and we don't speak lie because of his very
Order.
simple order that had given to us. And now also, we see in every day of our life as a spiritual power that is helping us in our daily lives. I cannot say anything about Baba's power, spiritual power, because he's very infinite power, and it is not to be speeched. Excuse me, I cannot speak correctly English because I have only studied 1 year and 8 months only English, and this little speaking also is of Baba's school. And when I came out from there, I couldn't accept myself to go to any other schools, because anywhere that I went to stay in school, I saw that all the naughty boys are speaking with each other, and not any kindly, just like in Meherabad. They were with themselves. That's what I couldn't accept to go in any other schools. You are asking me about when I had gone to Meherabad and why I had gone there. I said that Baba had ordered to one of his disciples to come in Iran and take any kind of boys that want to come to study in his school, and until 5 years they must be there and study everything, and after 5 years they can come to home. Therefore, 14 boys were, in any time that they wouldn't see Baba, they would weep too much. Then we were in the school every day after our class and teachings. We had to go for play. And in our plays, Baba also, with his silent state, would share with us. And we were very happy to play with our beloved Baba. Something that I can speak about the MEHER Ashram, I can say that we were very happy in that school, and just we were just like our home, of course better than our home in that school. We were always loving Baba with wholeheartedly, because he was our Lord in our heart. Not by the worldly things, because we were eating there not a very good things that we say, therefore we do to love Baba too much, but only for his spiritual illumination that we were seeing it in that little age that we had in 9 years old when we were there. And sometimes that we would see Baba coming, we all students would run to Baba and kneel before him and kiss his legs for just like we knew that he's our perfect master. And Baba always used to tell us, don't speak lie any times, and don't at any time in your life drink any wine or smoke.
Perfect, perfect, Jai Baba.
Meher Baba. I'm sorry if the TV went off for a while, but nevertheless, you asked what inspired this trip. Well, it was in a way self-evident. We knew, or I knew, that the people for all time reading about these Prem Ashram kids in the book Sobs and Throbs, which was published, I guess, many years ago. And then more things were being said about them. Would like to see them. Obviously, you want to see the people that were in that amazing ashram where Baba inspired so much love. He kept telling them that he wanted them to create Prem, means love. And when he kept saying this, it was not something that everybody in the world could do. You know, you just can't create love like that. But Baba was inspiring them behind their behind the scenes, you might say, that they could have so much love that they would weep sometimes for hours at a time. They couldn't hardly do their studies. There were days that they could hardly do their studies. Now, this is not a normal thing. You know, not everybody is able to have love where they're going to be weeping over it for any length of time. And they were doing that. And as he was saying, they would see Baba coming, they would come, and they would all want to kiss him, and they would kiss his legs, and they would just kiss him. Who does this? I don't know any parent that, as much as the kids may love the parent even, if they even love them, but if they do, then they're not going to that extent. But the Baba, they were just absolutely overwhelmed with their love for him. And that's when I realized that this isn't just something that Baba could say to us, even though he was saying it to the kids. He wasn't saying it to us that we should create love for him. Well, you can love him. I mean, he did want people to love him, but at the same time, there was not that kind of love. That kind of love was extremely rare. It had to be produced by him. And he had to be behind the scenes working on their emotional body as well in order to elevate their consciousness and to do whatever it was that he wanted to do to help them in their spiritual advancement. So this is one of the boys that we were just watching. And he was just a youngster. I don't know, it may have been about 15. I don't think they were much more than between 10 and 17 in that ashram. Now, I don't recall exactly everything because I don't remember what I read about it all, but I don't think anybody was much older than that. So this is one of the kids talking that you just heard,
Yeah.
trying to remember as much as he could while we were filming him. And this,
Irwin, which cities did you go to? Which cities in Iran? And also, when you met up with these boys, what did you and Farhad observe, like from them living in this world and like, you know, their inner experience? Did they share anything special? Just if you could walk us through their journey, that would be wonderful.
well, the first place we went to was Tehran. And in this interview that you saw, I saw that there was Esfandiar Vesali, where he was also sitting there. And he was one of the boys. Esfandiar, I want to talk about him a little bit. When he was telling us about his own experience, we did tell him that we were interviewing a lot of the others in Tehran. And some of them were saying, in fact, I think practically all of them said that when they came back from that ashram back to Iran, they didn't have that experience anymore. The experience of what Baba was doing and the emotion that they were feeling and all, that had dropped off. He couldn't understand this. He said, what? If Baba gives something, he doesn't take it away. Because in his case, it didn't go away. In his case, it got even more. It got increasing more. And he would talk about his experience of how Baba has been increasing his love for him more and more and more. And to think that he would, the others, well, that wasn't happening to them, like it was hard for him to believe, because he was thinking that about how it is with himself. But it was the case, because when we interviewed the others, including the gentleman that you just saw in the film, they were not having that kind of experience anymore. Now, even when we went to Bandar Abbas, where Abdullah Pakravan was living, he was the one that was known as Chota Baba, Little Baba, when you read about him. He was the one that everybody, I should say that he was given 6 plane experience. That's a very high plane to be experiencing. It is so much high that it is a place where you can see God directly. And not like with us, we just hear about it, but they see. So he was given the 6 plane experience, and Baba really kept him very close, very close. In fact, he even dressed many times in the white cloth of a master, but he was not the master. Baba was definitely the master. But anyhow, he was, when he came back from Iran, from where Baba was in Meherabad, from the ashram. Well, when he came back, he said that this did not last. It went away. And Baba had given him apparently certain instructions, and he said he wasn't able to do all those instructions, so he didn't do it all, and the experience went away. And he felt that it would come another time that it would come back again, but it was not happening now again. But when we were there, where was he? He was at the head of the Red Cross in Iran. He was the one that was the president of the Red Cross. And he told us that everything that he does, absolutely honest. No twisting around to anything else. Always honest, because that's what Baba wanted. So he said Baba showed him honesty. That's what he did. He said that's what Baba gave him. And we interviewed him in his office in the Red Cross. That's where he had us go to for the interview. He didn't even want to be interviewed. If anybody wanted to interview him, he would always say, no, he's not going to do this. But when he heard that we were coming for Baba, that we wanted to hear his experience that he had with Baba, then he agreed. Then he said, yes, you come now. And there were three of us, and Breen was also there. And so was the two of us, you know, to do this here. So these interviews were all filmed, and from what I understand, it might even be on YouTube. You know, you can, if you look for it, you might see it there as well. Now, so we went to Bandar Abbas. We also was in Shiraz. We went to these three places: Tehran, Shiraz, and Bandar Abbas. These were the places where the kids were that were in Baba's Prem Ashram. And now they were older men. In fact, I think it was about 40 years later that we actually interviewed them from the time that they were in that ashram. And they were a remarkable set of people. They had so many stories to tell about their own lives with Baba, but they were all living very normal lives, like what we would call normal. They had businesses, they did, they had families, they were just living ordinary lives, but they always had what Baba told them to do, that they did it. See, they were doing. If you have any other questions, go ahead and ask.
Yeah. Did they, I was wondering, did they share anything special? I know you interviewed them and everything, like something that about their inner experience with Baba, or something that may not be mentioned any place else. I don't know, like that you remember and could, you know, share with us here.
Well, the only thing we knew was what they said at the time when they were filming it, when we were filming it. These films and the soundtrack to them have been written up in some books. Ramju's diary, for instance, has that. It also includes the entire book of Sobs and Throbs, from what I understand, and also many of the interviews that we did later, what they had said. But they were not having, as I've mentioned, inner experiences now, not when we were filming them, with the exception of Esfandiar Vesali. One of the, you know, he told some really great stories that you want to hear about inner experience. This was a case of where he was in a lot of pain. And when he was traveling about himself, you know, he was traveling, telling stories for some time in the West, at the Meher Baba Center, and maybe other places as well. But one of the stories that he did tell was how he was having so much pain, and he asked Baba to turn that pain into bliss. How about that? You know, put pain, turn pain into bliss. And he said Baba did it. He turned it to pain into bliss. Well, you can call that an inner experience if you like, because this is not the common thing that everybody gets. You know, who wouldn't like to have their pain turned to bliss? But Baba did that for him, you know, at that time. I don't know that every pain after that was bliss for him, but at that time it was. He also wanted to see Baba at the East-West Gathering. And he had no money. He had not enough money to make the trip and to pay the airline and, you know, to pay whatever it cost. So he wrote to Baba of his difficulty and what was holding him back, because Baba had invited all his lovers from the East and the West to come to this particular gathering. This is something Baba wanted for many years, to hold that gathering, to bring the East and the West together. but the time wasn't right, and he didn't do it until 1962 when that happened. And of course, I was also there with my brother Edward, and then there were so many others. I think there was maybe about 150 to 200 Westerners that came. The rest were thousands of Easterners from India, Pakistan, and wherever else. So he wanted to go, but he hadn't the money. And so what Baba told him to do, wrote back to him and told him that, well, first he asked him what kind of work he did, what kind of business he had. And he said that he had a grove of trees, and they had fruits. It was fruit trees, and that he would collect the fruit, and that's how he managed to have his livelihood. So then Baba said to him, go amongst the rows of trees. Go amongst the rows of trees. Tell them that you want to come and see me, and that they should produce all the fruit they can, all the tremendous amount of fruit they can. This is what he was told, to go talk to the trees. Well, it happened also that there was a terrible drought that year that was going on. There was no rain, and all the crops that all the farmers had, they were withering and dying because they needed rain and there was no rain. So, but in his case, with his trees, he said there was such a bumper crop of fruit that occurred, and prices were way up because of the drought, and there was a scarcity of the fruits, so the prices went high. And he said he sold his fruits, and he had all the money he needed to go. And that's how he went, because Baba told him to go talk to the trees. And the trees didn't care about the drought, apparently. Just had a bumper crop. So that's how he got there, to see Baba at the East-West gathering. That was some gathering. Baba, for 4 days, it lasted for 4 days. I think on the 5th day, Baba allowed that not just his lovers could come, but that anybody in the public, anybody could come that wanted to come on that last day, the 5th day. So, but the darshan, but the East-West gathering, the darshan, actually lasted for 4 days. And what a time it was too. This was an amazing time, because the world was on the brink of destruction. The whole world, it was on the brink of destruction. There was what was called the human missile crisis. The United States had sent all these ships to blockade the Russian ships who were bringing missiles into Cuba. And so this was what was going on. And we didn't know, because, if you stop ships on the high seas, on international waters, that's considered an act of war. That's right. It's an act of war. And the US was going to stop all those ships from bringing these missiles in. So at the same time, as if that wasn't enough, at the same time, China invaded India. Now there's an invasion going on, and we take off on the plane to go to the East-West gathering. This is when we were going to leave. And the plane is going up, and we're on it, and we don't even know if there's going to be a planet to land on by the time all of this is going on. So, the planet was still there, and we landed, and we see all this military equipment as we're getting off the plane, rushing towards the border to defend the country, and all this was going on. And then we were taken in these buses to where Baba was, at in Guru Prasad in Pune. Well, now here we are, and a reporter comes up to where Baba is, and Baba's sitting on the dais. And this reporter wanted to ask him some questions. So Baba said, okay, let him come. And the reporter, the first question he asked, he said, will India be victorious? Because China was invading India. And Baba said that because the avatar is in India, India will be victorious. But he said, remember, I'm also in the Chinese. You can't get around Baba. He's in everybody. Well, all right, he told the reporter this. And then he was asked, well, what about the crisis where there could be a nuclear war between Russia and the United States over this Cuban Missile Crisis? What will happen with that? And Baba said that the world is not ready for that. He said, I will avert it. I will avert that. Oh, well, the next day comes out in the newspaper about India, and it says that Meher Baba says India will be victorious. He left out the part about Baba saying he was also in the Chinese. That part didn't get in there, but the other part did. But now what happened, as soon as we returned, that whole crisis was over. It was the Russians took their missiles back. The United States took back its fleet, and it was all over. It was like nothing happened. So this is where Baba said he would avert it. Well, now we're here with Baba, and Baba is so loving, and he's really so. It was just like all of this was just imagination happening, and he dissolved it. It was like nothing to him. So we were now with him, and there was all these thousands of people. You may have seen some of the films where all the people were there. I'm getting off the topic a bit about the Prem Ashram Boys, but this is good to know. Anyhow, we had this time with him, and I remember that there was a man in the back of, actually, this man had come up in the line. There was a long queue of people coming up to where Baba was, and they would have a moment to be with him, a contact where Baba would, where they would either they could touch Baba's feet, or they could bow down to him, or whatever they wanted to do. Baba was letting everybody do what they liked, and so they come up one by one, and they would go off. Suddenly, Baba stops the gathering. Erich now is on the microphone, and he's on the PA system, and he's telling everybody that Baba says that if somebody were to come up to him, and he decided that he wanted to give them God realization, that they would get that consciousness transformed, and they would walk away, and no one else would be able to tell the difference. They wouldn't know. There would be no way for anybody else to know that. He would just walk off. But he said what would have happened is that he came as just an ordinary person and walked away as God. He would have the God state of consciousness. God is the God state of consciousness. That's what it is. So then Baba just called for everything to continue. In the meantime, I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, boy, Baba doesn't waste time talking and just mincing words. I wouldn't be surprised that actually happened. And there was somebody that came up, and Baba just made a comment about what had happened. Now, Baba didn't say it happened. I'm saying that. It wouldn't surprise me. But these things do happen. And for him to have made that comment, just out of the blue, just happens to say something. I don't think things just happen to happen like that. Now you can ask me another question.
Okay. And also, we would like everybody who has questions to raise your hands digitally or just like this, that, would like to ask Irwin or Farhad some questions. But I'm going to ask you, Irwin and Farhad, also the same question. What was your experience meeting up with these Prem Ashram boys? What was it like? What did you feel? Did you feel anything special, or how was your feeling of whole atmosphere, their family? Did you see their families? I'm going to start with you, Irwin. Go ahead, please.
Well, for one thing, we were staying with the families. That's as we were traveling from one place to the other, we would always be staying with the families. We would eat with the families. They would feed us, and the whole film crew, which was 3 people. And we would also have a lot of conversations in between everything else. But the feeling was very normal, like you would be with friends, with other people that you like or that liked you. It was like these were not like strangers to us. We never knew them from before. In that sense, they were strangers, but there wasn't any feeling of strangeness. It was always a feeling of, well, they welcome us and we welcome them, and everybody is happy. And this is the way it went from one person to the other when we were there. I also had brought with me a big box of food, which was used for camping foods. And because I was not wanting the crew to eat excuse me, no, I'm getting this confused a little bit with what happened in India when we went to Amirpur. All right, never mind, scratch that one out. No, we were eating with them, and Iranian food was delicious. It was really quite good. Anyhow, that was the way my experience was with them. It was very, very warm-hearted, like a family, like you're part of the family. And that's the way. And we slept in the homes, and we ate with them, and then we would film them, and hear their stories. We tell them we want to hear what Baba actually said to them, and what they what he said and did with them. This is what everybody would like to know about. And so that's what they were talking mainly about.
Thank you, Irwin. Thank you, Irwin. Farhad, it's your turn, please. Hi.
Yeah, I think Irwin summed it up quite nicely. The only person that I felt something very special about, other than Esfandiar Vesali, was Khosrow Namiranian at the time. Now, you must remember that was my kind of first encounter with all of them except Esfandiar. So Irwin and I both met them for the first time. But then later, I had the opportunity to meet with them and learn about their lives. And as Irwin said, they lived a very ordinary life, but in the most extraordinary way. Like Khodayar, who Irwin filmed and we saw the film, he had made a vow not to carry more than, 10 tumans or some very small amount with him at all times. He would never keep any more than that amount. And he made a lot of money, but he gave all of it away. So they lived an extraordinary life. Or Chota Baba, I remember Irwin and Anne and I came out of our interview with Chota Baba. We sat there quietly for a while at this coffee place. It was an outdoor place. For a while we were silent. And then we asked each other, well, is he or is he not telling us the truth about the fact that he doesn't have those experiences anymore? We weren't quite sure if he was just kind of not telling or if it was actually he had lost all of those experiences because it had been so rich that it was hard to believe that he had actually lost or didn't have those experiences anymore. But later on, I came across this autobiography that his wife had written. And when Irwin and I were there, he talked a little bit about his wife and said how she was the first mayor woman in Iran. But in the autobiography, if you read, you get a sense of how unworldly he was. He had, for example, this big party that he had invited all the kind of influential people, and it was time for him to shine and kind of make a presentation of himself now that they were all in his house. But then his wife couldn't find him. Where was he? Well, he was making sure that the drivers and the people who had, were the servants and so forth, who had come with these dignitaries, were taken care of. They had food to eat. And he had absolutely no interest in his own career and that is, he tried to communicate a little bit of that to us when we were there. But, and he said that, see here, I have this book of Ramakrishna's Gospel of Ramakrishna. That is, so they lived a life that was inspired by that love in a practical way, which is the way of the seventh avatar. At this time, you live it. You don't sit in the corner and meditate about it. And that is the life that Khosrow, another remarkable story, and I think the programs that are coming up will touch on some of the extraordinary ways that they live their ordinary lives.
This is such a modest type of normal existence. It's like everybody was equal. It didn't matter to what higher station in life that you had, whether you were governing some peoples or you were in leadership positions. It was irrelevant. It was just, you were a human being and you had to be treated with all the respect of a human being, you see, and they had that very good. That was definitely part of what their experience was. And if you look at Baba's life, he was the same way, he would bow down to the lowest of the low, and to him, whether you were high or low, position didn't matter to him. And yet he was of the highest position himself. I mean, who could be higher? And yet he was one with everybody. So they had a good teacher to learn from.
Yes.
He was a very good teacher, and yet he kept saying, and you'll see it on his samadhi on the stone there, I have not come to teach, but to awaken, because his teaching was of the greatest and the highest. You really learned something, but that's not what he was here for. He was here to wake you up, to realize God. You see, that was his mission. That was what he was here for. Nobody else could do that. He was the only one that could do that. And as the avatar, he had the duty to do it. He could do it for millions of persons. It wasn't restricted to just the group of disciples or the people that just happened to come by as a perfect master would have. No, they brought him down for the specific purpose of being able to communicate to all, to everybody. And that's what he did throughout his entire life. He was doing that. He acted in a very normal way, Baba did. Like a friend, he just wanted love. He wanted to give love. This is the way he would talk.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, he had all the powers of the universe behind him. He could do anything. It's like Baba Jan said, when she gave him the enlightenment, she said that he could just with the little finger, with his little finger, he could rule anything. I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing it. She said it better than I just did. But that's what it amounted to. And we don't see that because he wasn't demonstrating that for us to see that. He wanted us to take him as someone that we could love. And not be scared and not be thinking that he has supernatural powers and that he could do anything in the universe. And, that he would make mention of it, but that's not the way he was behaving. He was behaving like he wanted you to just treat him as a member of your own family, someone that you love. And now you listen to what he says and do what he says. That's the way I got it.
Beautiful. We have Marjan who asked a question. In the movie we just watched, there was a gentleman sitting on the floor. Was that Shapur Mehrdadi? Either of you remember?
I didn't pay that much attention.
Yeah, Farhad, did you notice if that
I
gentleman?
think Shirin Khanum may know. I was thinking the same thing. I don't remember
Yeah,
the name.
look like Fanai to me. Look like Mr. Fanai to me.
No, it wasn't Fanai.
It was Shapur Mehrdadi probably, right?
Probably, but I think Shirin Khanum will probably recognize it.
At the meantime, Reza has his hand up. Agha Reza, please unmute yourself. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Dear Irwin, when on public broadcast, Baba stopped the program and asked and made the announcement that if anybody approaches me with the desire for God realization, in that he may experience it without anybody knowing it. My question is, when you heard that, did you approach Baba with that desire, that longing for God realization in your heart?
When I first came to Baba, I didn't need that to happen. I was already thinking the only thing that's going to matter is to realize your own reality, your own real self. You see, God realization has to have a meaning. And the meaning is that it's the God state of consciousness in which you experience yourself to be everywhere in everything. Now, that's what Baba's experience is. He wanted to give us his experience. That was what he was doing. He wanted us to become what he is, because that's the only reality there is. It's what he experiences. So when I first heard about him, I wasn't going there for anything else. I wanted to know God. I wanted him to show me God. Show me God. I want to see this. I've been hearing about it for ages. Everybody, and they would talk about it, and there's religions, and there's people, preachers, and books, and then other people talking about their experiences. But so it's time for me to see this now. Now at last, I want to be one that actually sees what everybody else is talking about. So I went to Baba for that purpose. It was not for anything else. I didn't care for anything else. That was it. So when you mentioned about what happened when we were at the East-West gathering, that was old story for me. I wanted to be there to personally experience what Baba was talking about, because what he was saying is that he came to give God realization, to give the enlightenment. And I came to receive it. So we were meant for each other. He wanted to give it, and I wanted to get it. What more can you ask for? And he did tell me things. Well, wait a minute. I'll say one more thing about it. He did tell me things that were really important about that very thing and what would happen. So this did not just end by whether I had giving me that experience or not. It ended where he let me know what was to be. That was the good part. And then in the meantime, just do what I say. See, do what I say. And when I'm with him, I'm thinking, he knows everything. What are you going to do? Not do what he says? You're going to tell him no? No, you don't say no. Not to somebody that your mind is transparent. No. Just do whatever you think is best. And he knows that part. You see, that's what he knows. He knows what is best. You don't know what's best, but he knows what's best. So you stick with the one who knows what's best.
Irwin, it's amazing. At times I see, just like now, Baba in your face.
Well,
I see him
you know,
shining through your face.
people have told me sometimes I look like Baba. I said
The
the only
same
thing missing.
smile.
Well, wait a minute. Yes, I said the only thing missing is his consciousness to go with the look.
Thank you. Okay.
Don't we?
Okay, now I have two questions for both of you. First question is, well, you know about the book, The Creation and Its Causes, that's just come out, and Ward Parks, that, you know, he's done the wonderful job. But it talks about the Prem Ashram boys and their time with Baba. And also going back to Lord Meher, there's a lots of mention about meditation practices that Baba had with these boys. I was wondering if any of them, while you were interviewing them, talked about, for instance, the meditation practices, that if they were doing it, or anything that you felt that was standing out at that time when you met with them. My second question is, when you both met them, did you meeting them affect your life in any way or form? How about we start with you, Farhad, this time? If you unmute yourself, yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
See, I'm getting old, so I already forgot your first question. What was your first
It was
question?
about the meditation practices, about, you know, if
Yeah,
they
of course,
did it.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I think there have been mentions and writings about how, you know, they were given meditations to do it. And then, for example, and I don't know if this was during the trip that Irwin and I made or later on, but Shahryar Mehrabanpur would talk about, you know, his own meditations, and also how when one of the, you know, the boys that he was in charge of would get, you know, totally carried away by these meditations, and he would run away and start to put his stomach in the water because he would get so hot. But and of course, Esfandiar, he was constantly in the state of meditation, and Baba put him on silence for a while. So they did mention the fact that, but it was not, you know, they didn't make a big deal out of it that I remember, that yes, they were supposed to meditate, and they were more. What was more important was that overwhelming sense of love and feeling of love that they felt for Baba, whether meditating or not. And then what was the second question?
the second question was, you and Irwin meeting up with them, like observing them or being with them, did that in any way affect your way or your closeness with Baba? Did you learn something that you took away with you? How did that affect you on a whole?
Yeah, I'm sure there was. I don't, you know, it was 50 years ago, so I can't remember anything at the subconscious level. I'm sure, you know, meeting with these remarkable people and hearing about their lives and just being in their presence has its own impact and effect, which may not register itself in awareness, but nothing that, other than just being awestruck by some of the stories that I learned about their lives, And that may have been later on after this first trip when I got to know them a little more.
Okay. Is there any of those stories that you could share with us?
Sure, but let's have
Irwin, tell
Irwin's-
us first. Yes. Hi,
You
Irwin.
know, let me make it clear. There was nothing supernatural that would occur in any way when I met any of these men. Baba had them as natural as you can be because we're natural, and he wanted them to fit in with everybody else as far as I could see. He didn't want them to be looked up to in any way beyond what would be loving them. And they had a lot of love. They were very natural, but they were also very warm-hearted. And I think that Farhad is going to agree with that too. But the thing is, I liked whatever was going on that was extraordinary was at the time when they were with Baba in the ashram. That was the time when these remarkable things were occurring that just is not normal for the common person. You don't weep your head off for hours at a time where you can't even do your studies, and you just adore Baba so much, and you just wait upon him, just waiting for him to come into the room or to come and visit. They would be very upset if he didn't show up. So this was the way the energies were flowing at that time, and that's and that part, you know, you really want to know about that, about how much love a person can have, that what these kids were having. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about the meditation part. You see, whatever he gave them to do, or any individual, was for them. It was just for that person. It wasn't for the world at large. Baba gave discourses about meditation, and every single kind of meditation that there is, you can read it in the discourses. It was unbelievable the way he explained everything. I mean, his explanations, you can't beat them. But the thing was, he didn't come for that. You see, this is the thing you don't understand. He wasn't a yogi or a saint that he was going to be giving you different types of disciplines and exercises and diets and things to advance you. That's what these other people do, because they're not God realized, but they are maybe advanced. If you're lucky, you'll find it someone that's genuine and actually is advanced. So they have that, and they bring you up to, at best, to the level that they're at. But Baba was far beyond that. And he made us understand, look, all these meditations, concentration, contemplation, whatever you want to call it, is all within the framework of the mind. And he was here to annihilate the mind, not to give you more things to do in the mind, because no matter what you do, you can't jump out of what the mind is. You can't eliminate the mind with the mind. So this is something that only a perfect master or an avatar can do, because they're not bound by the mind, and they they want to do one thing, and it's only one thing: wake you up. Baba was saying, it's all illusion. It's a dream. Whatever all these planes are just imagination. It's within the framework of the mind. The mind can only do one thing, and that's create imagination. And you can imagine the past, you can imagine the future. It's always now, no matter what you imagine. You always do it in the now. But the thing is, the mind contrives to draw you with your full consciousness, and that's why it looks so real, because you have a full consciousness to look at it with. The mind is going to contrive to absorb you. And this absorption you cannot get out of by yourself. You can't use the mind with all of its meditations and such to get out of the mind. This is why he did the Mananash period. This is why he did annihilation of the mind. Now, what that is that he did, he alone knows. I don't know how he works this. But the point is that he did it. And that is what he does. He is the awakener. There is nothing you have to do in the mind. You wake up from a dream, which is all illusion. You wake up from the dream. Did you do something in the dream to wake yourself up? You know, you can't dream yourself into waking up. You have to have somebody from the outside who is awake to wake you up, to give you a shove or something, or do something. Get up. And this is the way I see it. Now, you can say what you like, but I've come to terms with that one.
Yeah,
And
I want to re-echo what you said, because it's, I think, so very important. The first thing you said was that it's a very personal thing. Now, for the period of the Prem Ashram, Baba was doing some very special work, and it was as if he was opening up his world of silence and bringing some of that energy down. And for that, he needed those boys to do certain kinds of meditation. And, you know, there are always exceptions of where he has given people meditation.
Then look, if he says to do something, you do it.
Exactly.
That's all I
Right.
know.
But this new age, you see, he's the seventh avatar, and we will talk about that maybe next time. But what happens in the previous avataric periods, meditation and that sort of a thing, is very relevant, very important. But the seventh avatar, especially at this particular time that he has come as one who is bringing a totally new world for us, it is most important that one lives in the most sacred place, which is this earth, which is this life. And this is what he set an example of and encouraged everybody to live a natural, ordinary life, but in an extraordinary way. And that is what we see in the lives of these Prem Ashram boys. And I noticed that Mahu, our dear Mahu, put a beautiful quote of Baba out recently that said something to the effect that all of these kind of meditations and so forth mean nothing compared to helping someone else, serving someone else. That is the path, the spiritual path of now, of Baba's advent, that you, of course, do your meditation if it appeals to you and you want it, and especially if he's given it to you. But the key is you cannot undo sanskaric fibers and get them ready so that Baba can touch you and make you perfect, unless you undo all of those sanskaras that you have accumulated. And the only way you can do that is living a normal life. And that's one of his first wish. When he has these 5 wishes, don't shirk your worldly responsibilities. That's the first one that he gives you. Thank you.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, I just want to also share something that there is on MeherSepas.com. There is a page that we recently made. It's called Dar Dil, which is going to be about the Prem Ashram Boys. And we have an animated short movie there. It's about that Esfandiar Vesali. He speaks in his own words and is subtitled in English that about his inner journey with Baba. And it's very interesting because he talks about how being with Baba, it gave him the ability, nothing could enter his mind. His mind was like a bulletproof tank that nothing penetrate through. And if you go there, I will post it in the chat room that you can watch and kind of get the feeling what it was like. And he brings you to the topic of his, he's went to Baba, but at the end, how his progress was and everything. So I will post that you will see. But Farhad, you were going to share about some stories, some experiences as well that you mentioned. If you would, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, not experiences, but some stories about.
Stories, yes.
Yeah, like Khosrow, he, was a simple man. He worked, combine engines and tractors and so forth. That's how he made his living. Just like his brother Khodayar, they both did similar kinds of work. Now, Khosrow at some point was employed by a certain man who turned out to be an equivalent of a, mafia type character in Iran. And so this fellow wanted Khosrow to do something that was a bit dishonest. And as Irwin said, and we heard from the video, they were asked by Baba not to lie and not to be dishonest, and he flatly refused. And of course, this mafia boss was not used to people saying no to him. So he sent some of his goons to beat him up. And not only did they beat him up, but they broke his ribs and his limbs, and he was in the hospital for 6 months. So once he got out of the hospital, barely able to function, he felt, this is the story he was telling me. He said he felt that there was a bitterness in his heart against this man who had done this thing for him, and he didn't want that bitterness. So even if that man would not pay him, he felt obligated to go and serve him. So after getting beaten up, he goes back to the man and he says, I want to serve you because I want this bitterness to get out of my system. And even if you don't pay me, I'll work for you. And so, and of course the man is shocked, and he hires him and develops a liking for Khosrow. And of course, all of that, bitterness goes away. But these are the sorts of people that Baba inspired during the Prem Ashram. And this is what came out of them after those experiences, which may not have lasted except for, Esfandiar and maybe Khosrow. And towards the end of their lives, I think some of them regained some of that experience. But I don't want to dwell on those stories anymore because I know you're having programs that people are going to come and speak about them at length.
Thank you, Farhad. Reza has his hand up. Reza, please unmute yourself.
Listening to the stories of these Prem Ashram Boys reminds me, I met Khosrow around 2000 in Meherabad. I knew nothing about him. And here I heard there is a Prem Ashram boy here. He was such a, how would you say? He didn't make any moves to be seen. And I saw that a lot of people didn't even know he was there. His son was there, Iraju, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was there. He was there, but I'm not mistaken that Iraj is his son. I may be corrected on that. So I called for a meeting of recognition for Khosrow. We held it in Lower Meherabad in a tent. And I was his interpreter and his speaker, despite the fact that his son was there. He lived such a natural life that for his family members, he was not extraordinary, but he truly was. And I realized that, and I appreciated that. Jai Baba.
I have something that I'd like to read that I wrote. It's a poem, and it tells something. If it's all right, I'd
Yes, please.
like to read that. Is it all right?
Yes, please. Yes,
Oh,
please,
okay.
Erwin. Yes.
Okay. I
Thank
didn't read it.
you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It is titled Dreamland. Who would believe I'm just a character in a dream? I am having that in my dreamland. I also made up the world around me in my dreamland. Am I doing in my little way what you have been doing since the beginning of time? When the mind emerged from you, duality was born. It was the perfect mirror for you to see yourself. Yogis try to still their mind, and so they can get a better look at you. They love it. They never saw such a glorious sight before. Such bliss, love, and power, like nothing found on earth. Who would want to leave that? But to you, the enchanting mind is only good for dreams. Even a still mind is no match for the real thing. You live alone as the only one in existence. But yet, unlike us, you are never lonely. You have your own infinite self-fulfillment to keep you company. The glory of such a divine selfhood cannot be understood with the mechanical mind, which is good for grinding out endless thoughts and every kind of feeling that our mental and emotional body and our mental and emotional body can know. Well, something happened here which I can't find out. Anyhow, oh, I'm sorry, it continues. Didn't end. Which is good for grinding out endless thoughts and every kind of feeling that our mental and emotional body can do. So I'm a little lost with what I've done, and now I can't finish it. So I'm sorry about that.
It was beautiful,
Oh,
Erwin.
we went this far.
It was beautiful. We always love your email shares that you send, the stories. We really appreciate it. And you coming today. Does anybody have any questions to ask Erwin or Farhad or
Well, Irvin, don't feel bad you didn't finish the poem.
Yeah,
Rumi
I
did
couldn't
not
finish it
finish
because
this.
I couldn't turn the page to where
I
it
see,
was.
but Rumi expired before finishing the sixth book of Matnawi, so don't feel bad. It's all right.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I will listen to you. Yeah, that's strange, because I had it in my book and now the rest of it isn't there. So I'm sorry I couldn't finish that. But just the same, the point being, we live in an illusion that looks so real to us because we have a very sharp consciousness. We're at the epitome of consciousness. The human being, the human state evolved into the most sharpest and most real consciousness that there is. So naturally, whatever we see looks real. Well, according to Baba, when you wake up in the real sense, then it's all seen as an illusion or a dream. It's seen like a dream. Like when you have a dream at night, you're everybody in the dream. You're all the buildings, you're the sky, you're everything. And it feels very natural. It doesn't feel like it's unusual to be everything. So when Baba sees himself as everything, it's very natural for him. There is nothing to it. The only thing that he can do for anybody else is wake them up. so you see it too.
Yes, yes.
Anyhow, that was the point of it all.
Thank you, Irwin. But all I can say is we're so blessed and thankful to Baba that, you know, you could come and join us. And I believe Baba, he put the camera in the hand of the right man. You were the one who made all these beautiful films. And I'm sure everybody knows, but all these wonderful videos that Irwin took, they're all being transformed. They're available on YouTube. So please enjoy them. This is a treasure that, you know, Irwin made it possible for us to have at this point of time. And it's the avatar and his close ones that's, you know, we can.
But I also have to thank Fahd for his work, because he translated so much of what they said. They were speaking in Farsi. I couldn't understand that, but the questions that we put were in English. He would translate it into Farsi, and then they would answer in Farsi, most of them. But then there was some that did speak English, and so that was good too. But if it wouldn't have been for him and also for Anne to assist me, it would have been really a lot more difficult to get it all. But between all of us, we managed it. And now posterity, people from for all times, in all countries and all places, will have the benefit of hearing what these amazing stories are that they told of their lives with Baba. Because Baba is really the central point here, and everything revolves around him. And we like to hear what they did and what he said and did with them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Farhad, would you like to add something here at the end? You like to?
No, I just want to re-echo Irwin's and repeat that it's the one without the second. There's only one. There isn't any more. There's just one. And Baba's life was all about awakening that oneness. And we don't have to wait. All we have to do is to live as if it were true, because it is true. And that is why service is so central to Baba's life, because he put it on the top of his samadhi, he put it in the center of his emblem, mastery in servitude. That is the one way that you can show that what Baba said is true, that we are all one.
Selfless service. The big point in that is selfless, because it's very difficult for a person to say that they don't, about their self, that they're going to be thinking of someone else other than themselves. You're always thinking of yourself because you're a person. You have to be yourself in order to do anything. But to do it in a way that you appreciate all the other selves, even though you're all one, ultimately. When we get to Baba's state, then we'll see how there's only one self behind the bodies and the minds of everybody. But now we still see ourselves as separate, and we have to deal with that. So we deal with it by trying to do the best we can for others, so that we're not putting our personal self in front of everyone else. We're accepting them for what they are also, and we try to have as much love as possible. And then Baba comes along and he says, love me. And it all turns out well that way.
I'm so grateful to Baba for this day and this time that we've had together. I want to thank you, Irwin, from the bottom of our hearts, for coming and sharing all this time and experience, and especially the movie. It was so wonderful to see Khodayar and Esfandiar, especially. I don't remember seeing him that young. I remember him like, I was very, I was a kid. So that was way before when as far as I can remember. So it was so interesting. I see.
Deshmukh said, but Baba, there's the wayfarers, people are going to read about them. It would be nice if they could see something also. So then Baba agreed, okay, you can come on this trip and you can film whatever you want. And he let him do it. And so that's how that film came about.
Thank you, Irwin, and thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you, Jai Baba.
Thank you, Jai Baba
Jai
Ganasha.
Baba. Jai
Thank
Baba.
Jai
Everybody.
Baba, and
Jai
thank
Baba.
Jai Baba, and thank you and Farhad both for coming and sharing all these things with us about the Prem Ashram Boys.